John D. Rockefeller didn't simply ride a wave of good fortune to become the world's first billionaire. He engineered it. Born into poverty, he rose to command a financial empire so vast that at his peak, his wealth accounted for nearly 1.5% of the entire U.S. GDP. But if you ask Rockefeller himself, he would credit not luck, but relentless discipline, strategic planning, and the kind of work ethic few dare to adopt. In one of the letters he penned to his son, Rockefeller explained that luck is not to be ignored, but it is never to be counted on. He believed in planning for luck, which meant creating the circumstances where luck becomes more likely, more accessible. He didn't wait for favorable winds. He studied weather patterns and built his own sails. Rockefeller posed a simple but powerful metaphor. Imagine if Standard Oil, one of the most powerful corporations in American history, appointed its president through a lottery, tossing all employee names into a hat and picking one at random. Ridiculous, right? Yet this is how many people expect success to arrive, by chance, not by choice. The power of intentional planning. Instead of drifting aimlessly, Rockefeller urged his son to follow two basic steps. Define your destination. What kind of person do you want to become? What do you want to accomplish? Identify your resources. What skills, relationships, knowledge, or assets do you already possess that can help you get there? This approach, Rockefeller believed, would lead to something stronger than fleeting luck, a life built on a solid foundation of effort and awareness. When Cleveland's oil market was in chaos and businesses were collapsing left and right, Rockefeller didn't see crisis. He saw opportunity. As others panicked, he quietly acquired struggling competitors, expanding his empire while others withered. He reminded his son that bad luck and misfortune are inevitable, but a person who prepares relentlessly and executes consistently will always be more resilient. Those who wait for luck become its victim. Those who prepare for it become its master. On this earth, anything can happen, except success without effort. Effort doesn't just build skill, it builds character. It strengthens the internal compass that helps us navigate an uncertain world. Rockefeller wasn't suggesting that we ignore risk or blindly rush ahead. Rather, he believed in consistent, small acts of effort that accumulate over time. Every large achievement is composed of countless quiet decisions to stay committed to the process, even when no one is watching. Paradise or hell? You decide. Both heaven and hell are self-made, Rockefeller wrote. That's not theology, it's psychology. In another letter, he shared an idea echoing the sentiments of Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung. The way we perceive the world is often more important than the world itself. The same event, a failure, a betrayal, a closed door, can be either a devastating blow or a vital turning point, depending on the lens we choose. Rockefeller believed that our attitude functions like a filter. We can either use it to allow growth, clarity, and resilience into our mental space, or we can allow bitterness, envy, and fear to seep in and take root. The future is too important to let just anything influence it. Every word we absorb, every thought we repeat, becomes part of the structure of our inner life. He encouraged reading uplifting books, choosing vocabulary that empowered rather than diminished, and consciously training the mind to shift perspectives, not through denial, but through discipline. Words shape thoughts, and thoughts shape destiny. The optimist sees opportunity in hardship. The pessimist sees hardship in every opportunity. Rockefeller was a meticulous planner, but he understood a dangerous truth. Planning can become a form of procrastination. Many people fall into the illusion that they're progressing because they are still getting ready. They wait for the perfect timing, the perfect conditions, the perfect version of themselves. And in doing so, they never begin. He often reminded his son that no plan survives contact with reality unchanged. The world is too unpredictable, too complex, to ever guarantee success. And yet, that is no reason to remain frozen. A mediocre plan put into action beats a perfect one sitting on the shelf. Rockefeller observed that many people give up before they even start, not because they don't have the skills or intelligence, but because they've convinced themselves they need more time to prepare, more confidence, more assurance. This leads to a cycle of excuses that slowly harden into a belief. Maybe I'm just not meant for this. But Rockefeller challenged that kind of thinking head-on. Everything is constantly changing. Life and death, fortune and failure, all are fluid. But fear of the unknown keeps most people clinging to mediocrity. He taught that fear is natural, but it must be managed, not obeyed. And one of the best ways to defeat fear is through motion. By acting, however small the step, we shift the story from maybe someday to I'm already on the way. Doubt fades in the face of momentum. Belief before skill, the psychology of possibility. Another powerful principle Rockefeller instilled was this: belief must come before mastery. The world often tells us the opposite. Prove yourself first, then you're allowed to believe. But Rockefeller flipped that on its head. For him, belief wasn't naive optimism, it was fuel. He wrote that when people have big dreams, their first reaction is often fear. Not fear of the dream itself, but fear of their own inadequacy. I'm not good enough. I'm not ready. What if I fail? These are the silent mantras that stop more people than any external challenge. But Rockefeller insisted, belief isn't about blind confidence. It's about strategic self-trust. Believing you can do something doesn't mean you'll get it right the first time. It means you're willing to keep going even when you don't. That belief will create the necessary skills over time. Confidence becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. He warned against confusing belief with passive hope. Hope waits. Belief acts. To hope you will succeed is passive. To believe you will succeed is active. One waits for rescue. The other builds the raft. In one of his most striking passages, he described people with tremendous intelligence who use all their brain power to invent reasons why something won't work. He called this a waste of genius. A mind focused on limitations becomes a prisoner of its own imagination. But a mind focused on solutions becomes a creator of futures. Fail, but fail forward. Rockefeller was not afraid of failure. He was afraid of wasting failure. He knew that most growth happens after things go wrong. In fact, he believed that the most valuable character traits, resilience, clarity, humility, are forged in the fire of disappointment. He referenced a close friend, Captain Schofield, who failed badly in a business venture. Rather than offer excuses or blame circumstances, Schofield went home, got better, and tried again. That, to Rockefeller, was greatness. He noticed that people who fear failure the most often care more about preserving their pride than growing their potential. They find elegant ways to justify why something didn't work out, blaming age, time, health, others. Over time, they believe these excuses so deeply that they stop seeing the truth. They gave up too early. At first, a man knows his excuses are half-lies. But if he tells them enough times, he starts to believe them completely. And he becomes the reason for his own failure. Instead of avoiding failure, Rockefeller advised learning to fail constructively. Take responsibility. Find the lesson. Keep moving. The faster you can process defeat without internalizing it, the more unstoppable you become. One of the most dangerous illusions we hold is the belief that we already know enough, that we've seen enough, that we understand how the world works, and that it no longer has anything new to teach us. Rockefeller warned his son of this trap often. He called it intellectual arrogance. The moment we assume we've figured everything out, we stop learning. And in a world that never stops evolving, standing still is the same as falling behind. To believe that what you know is all there is to know is the surest path to irrelevance. Rockefeller didn't just mean formal education or reading more books. He meant the attitude with which one approaches life. Are you curious or closed? Humble or hardened? Those who think they know it all rarely ask questions, and as a result, miss opportunities that are hidden in plain sight. He told his son that the true investor doesn't just look for profit in money, but in value creation, including the value of the self. He used the example of trading a $1 item versus a $100 item. It's not the same level of impact, nor of return. The more valuable you are, the more valuable your work, your words, and your presence becomes to others. That's why Rockefeller advocated constant self-investment. He believed the greatest returns in life come not from buying stocks, but from upgrading your thinking, sharpening your skills, and raising your internal standards. The return on self-improvement never goes down in value, only up. Strategic patience, not passive endurance. Patience was another virtue Rockefeller held in high regard, but not the kind that masks fear or surrender. To him, patience was a weapon, a strategy, not weakness. He shared a deeply personal story with his son, a painful but defining moment. As one of the founders of a growing oil company, he found himself gradually being pushed out by more powerful partners. A partner named Gardner changed the firm's name, erasing Rockefeller's presence from the company's identity. Another partner, Clark, who had once stood beside him, did nothing to stop it. To the outside world, Rockefeller looked weak, disrespected, erased. But inside, he remained calm, because he had a plan. He didn't react in anger. He didn't slam doors or start rivalries. Why? Because he knew that a moment of emotion could destroy years of strategy. He needed Gardner's money and influence. He needed Clark's connection. And above all, he still believed in the future of the business more than his pride. Patience is not swallowing rage. It is holding your fire until the right time to strike. In time, Rockefeller regained control. He built Standard Oil into a behemoth that would change the course of industrial history. But that victory began with a painful decision: to stay silent when his ego wanted to shout. His lesson was simple but powerful: don't confuse pride with power. Sometimes, the most powerful move is to wait, not out of fear, but because your long-term goal is more important than your short-term emotions. Your circle shapes your ceiling. Another insight Rockefeller emphasized again and again: choose your associations wisely. Not just business partners, but the voices around you, friends, mentors, even casual company. He believed the people you spend time with either push you forward or pull you down. He told his son bluntly, avoid people who constantly complain, gossip, or spread negativity. It's not just emotionally draining, it's dangerous. Over time, you absorb their language, their worldview, and their limitations. Let your environment serve your mission, not sabotage it. In his own life, Rockefeller made a habit of surrounding himself with people who were ambitious, strategic, and forward-thinking. He sought out individuals who challenged him, not flattered him. He believed that iron sharpens iron, and if you want to stay sharp, don't settle for soft company. This wasn't about elitism or arrogance. It was about alignment. Surround yourself with people who reflect the future you want, not the comfort of the past. In an age obsessed with productivity metrics, wealth rankings, and follower counts, Rockefeller's perspective was radically human. To him, life wasn't meant to be measured, it was meant to be lived. He warned his son of the hollow pursuit of living just to exist, drifting from task to task, year to year, without ever confronting the deeper question: why am I here? We are not here to pass time. We are here to make time meaningful. He urged his son to reject the idea of existence as a long checklist of responsibilities or societal benchmarks. Instead, he championed purposeful action, doing things that matter, not just things that appear important. His challenge was to find a reason to wake up that extended beyond status or salary, to build a life anchored in clarity of purpose. In one of his most poetic letters, he wrote, "We live in emotions, not in numbers. We breathe in thoughts, not in atmosphere. Count time not by the ticks of the clock, but by the beat of a heart driven by purpose." That purpose doesn't have to be grand or world-changing in the beginning, but it must be personal. It must resonate. Without it, we fall into what Rockefeller called the gray fog, a life that feels full on the surface but empty underneath. Avoid the drift. Know why you move. Rockefeller believed that drifting, moving through life without intention, was one of the greatest threats to personal growth. People often find themselves busy, tired, even stressed, but when asked what they're working toward, they come up blank. That, to him, was tragic. He viewed a meaningful life as one that has a compass, not just a clock. It's not about how fast you're moving. It's about where you're going. You can spend 20 years climbing a ladder only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. To avoid that fate, Rockefeller encouraged regular reflection. What are your guiding values? Are your actions aligned with your inner mission, or are they just keeping you busy? The answers require courage, but they also set you free. A man without direction can be moved by every wind. A man with direction can harness the wind to sail further. Protect your mind like you protect your health. Another powerful insight he offered was this: be extremely cautious about what you let into your mind. He viewed the mind not just as an instrument for thought, but as a living space, one that needed to be kept clean, focused, and fortified. Every piece of negativity, gossip, envy, or self-doubt that enters your mind begins to live there, and if not evicted, it builds furniture and settles in. That's why Rockefeller advised his son to guard his thoughts like a fortress. Be intentional about what books you read, the conversations you engage in, the news you consume, and even the language you use to describe your own life. Words, he believed, were not neutral. They were either seeds or poisons. You either speak growth or decay into your future. The words you whisper to yourself become the beliefs that build your reality. In this light, optimism isn't just a mindset, it's a discipline. It's choosing again and again to focus on possibilities, not just problems. It's replacing "I can't" with "how can I?" It's speaking to yourself the way you would to someone you love and believe in deeply. The legacy of intention. Ultimately, Rockefeller's message was not about achieving success in the way the world defines it, but in the way your soul understands it. His legacy wasn't just measured by the billions he earned, but by the values he passed on: resilience, strategy, humility, and above all, intention. To live intentionally means you are no longer reacting to life. You are designing it. It means every relationship, every decision, every hour is approached with awareness and respect. And when things fall apart, as they inevitably will, you can rebuild faster, stronger, and smarter because you never lost sight of why you started in the first place. For Rockefeller, success wasn't defined by never failing. On the contrary, it was defined by how you fail, how you learn, and most importantly, how you rise. He viewed failure not as a detour, but as a sharpening stone. It scrapes, it stings, but in the process, it reveals what's real, what's essential. Those who grow from failure are the ones who treat it like a teacher, not a curse. They don't collapse. They refine. A road filled with hardship and bad luck may be the very path that forges you into someone who can do extraordinary things. Rockefeller shared a metaphor with his son: sharpening a knife on silk cloth, soft, gentle, easy, will never make it sharp. True refinement comes from friction. In the same way, a life without resistance will never build resilience. That's why he admired people who didn't explain away their mistakes, but studied them with precision. No excuses, just responsibility. Perhaps one of Rockefeller's most enduring messages was his intolerance for excuses. He wasn't harsh, he was honest. He had seen too many men become prisoners of their own narratives, blaming fate, timing, illness, society, anything but themselves. He recounted a lesson learned from a friend and ship captain, Schofield, who had lost a competition in his later years. Many would have blamed old age, bad luck, or injustice. But Schofield didn't say a word. He didn't explain. He improved. Quietly. Privately. And when he returned, he was better than before. To Rockefeller, this wasn't just admirable. It was rare. The more someone values their pride, the harder it is for them to accept failure. But unless you own your failure, you'll never own your future. He warned his son, repeat an excuse enough times, and you'll start to believe it. First, it's a shield. Then, it becomes your truth. And once that happens, your potential is no longer limited by the world. It's limited by your story. In Rockefeller's view, taking responsibility is the ultimate act of freedom. It means nothing is off limits for growth. Nothing is out of reach. It puts the pen of your life back in your own hand. Humility is the gateway to greatness. Closely tied to this was his belief in humility as strength. Rockefeller knew his rise from poverty didn't make him better than others, only more aware of what it takes to rise. He cautioned his son never to fall into the trap of intellectual elitism or success-induced arrogance. The world changes. Information updates. People evolve. What you know today might be wrong tomorrow. So stay curious. Stay teachable. That's how you stay relevant and powerful. He saw ego as the enemy of progress. People who are too proud to ask, to listen, to adjust, eventually collapse under the weight of their own certainty. But those who remain open to correction, to new strategies, to new viewpoints, are the ones who survive the longest. What you know now is not all there is to know. And if you think it is, you've already begun to decline. Purpose is power, but only if you act on it. In the end, Rockefeller circled back to what mattered most: purpose, not comfort; intention, not routine; legacy, not applause. He believed every person has a role to play in the world, not one they are assigned, but one they choose. That role, however, demands discipline. Vision alone doesn't shape a life, action does. Sustained, deliberate, and sometimes invisible effort. When no one is watching. When it's not easy. when you're tired, rejected, or misunderstood, and you keep going anyway. On this earth, anything can happen, except receiving rewards without effort. To Rockefeller, a meaningful life is one lived with clarity and conscious pursuit, not chasing approval, not hoarding wealth, but building something within yourself that no market crash, critic, or crisis can take away: integrity, resilience, and unwavering self-leadership. Closing thoughts. Your inheritance is not money, but mindset. What Rockefeller left his son wasn't just wealth, it was a code. A deeply personal, fiercely practical roadmap to becoming not just successful, but self-made. A person whose life is authored from within, not dictated by circumstance. These letters were never about telling his son what to do. They were about how to be, how to rise with grace, how to fall with dignity, how to endure with vision, and how to build a life that's measured not by headlines, but by inner strength. In a world spinning faster every day, where values get blurred and noise often drowns out truth, Rockefeller's letters whisper a clear message. Work harder than you feel like. Think deeper than they expect. Fail better. Rise wiser. And live like your time actually matters, because it does.